Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Acupuncture is My Life. Now, this episode is going to be quite interesting because I've spoken to several individuals via chat session on the Acupuncture is My Life app regarding diseases that can kill you within 24 hours. And so many individuals were shocked as to some of them, but not all, because some of the diseases that I discussed were known in the countries in which they were from. And by the way, if you don't already have the Acupuncture is My Life app, feel free to do so. It's downloaded for free. It's at the Apple Store for iPhone users and the Google Play Store for Android users. Now, I'm going to go over a few diseases that'll kill you within 24 hours if not treated immediately or if you have a compromised immune system. Now, the latter is more important, and it pertains to the reason as to why I'm constantly telling you, see an acupuncturist for regular wellness visits, because you want to have a strong immune system. You never know what can happen at any time, any point, any place on this planet in your life, and you want to be as prepared as possible. This is why I say over and over, seeing a medical doctor, a physician, annually, in some cases semi-annually, and engaging in regular wellness visits with an acupuncturist removes a huge burden from your shoulders. It really does. And that is health. Now, the first I'd like to discuss is the bubonic plague, and many of you have heard of this. And this plague is on record as the deadliest of all diseases in the history of man. This plague has killed close to 60 million people, and it still exists. And cases can be found in South America as well as different parts of Asia and Africa. And how individuals become infected by this disease is if they're bitten, let's say, by a rat or something as small as a flea, you can contract this disease. And right away you'll start experiencing vomiting, high fever, delirium, swollen lymph nodes. And you're going to need emergency care right away. The fatality rate of this disease ranges between 29 to 61% of all known cases. Okay? Another deadly disease is Ebola, which is transmitted via blood or body secretions, different types of body fluids from different types of animals, such as gorillas, gazelles, chimpanzees. And an individual who contracts this disease can transmit it just simply from direct contact. Now, this disease can incubate inside of a human being for up to 22 days, 20 days rather, it's safe to say. With their first symptoms will be muscle pain, sore throat, headache, fever. And the symptoms will progress to, like, say, diarrhea, vomiting, internal as well as external hemorrhaging, rash. But it can take just 24 hours from the onset of the symptoms to death. And Ebola has a mortality rate ranging between 20 to 92%. 20% to 92%. Another one is cholera. Some pronounce it cholera, I pronounce it cholera. I've heard those two pronunciations, but cholera, this is more so an intestinal disease. And you can get this as a result of drinking contaminated water or eating contaminated foods, because it's a form of bacteria, okay? And after it sort of incubates for like 12 hours, it can cause severe, let's say, diarrhea, and you need to be treated right away, because this infection causes severe dehydration, and then just in a matter of a few hours, you're dead. So as soon as you start experiencing symptoms of cholera, you want to seek emergency care right away. Another deadly disease is meningitis. And now this can be caused by bacteria or even a virus. It can present as a bacteria, a form of bacteria or virus. And younger children, babies, teenagers usually come down with meningitis, but adults are still susceptible. And teenagers get this as a result of exchanging saliva via kissing. Now, the symptoms of this disease is similar to the flu, where you'll experience stiff neck, whereas to an acupuncturist, this is like similar to Taeyong syndrome. You'll experience stiff neck, there'll be fever, headache, sensitivity to light. But the thing with meningitis is it's much, much, much more deadlier than the flu. One in two people can die from it. And if you're of, let's say, the 10 to 20% of survivors of this disease, more than likely you will suffer from some type of neurological damage for the rest of your life. Now, another is flesh-eating disease, which affects the soft tissue of your body, and it tends to enter your body through, let's say, like a small cut or a wound that's been unattended to, and it tends to cause the skin to become necrotic, and you'll present with, let's say, chills, fever, and the affected areas on the skin will be red. It'll present as red. Now, whatever part of the body, let's say whatever limb is affected by flesh-eating disease, it usually ends up being amputated. And that's if you haven't already succumbed to this bacteria. Because somewhere in the ballpark of 25 to 45% of the individuals who are affected by this flesh-eating disease tend to die from it. Another is a certain type of hepatitis called fulminant hepatitis. What causes fulminant hepatitis? Shingles, herpes. But more times than not, it's caused by hepatitis A and B. Hepatitis A, a lot of times, is a result of food poisoning. So you want to get tested for hepatitis on a regular basis. But no matter what your cause is, see a doctor, seek emergency care, and see an acupuncturist right away. Because it'll present with certain symptoms such as jaundice, yellowing of the skin, and sclera of the eyes, fatigue, severe fatigue at that, stomach pain. 40% of individuals, anywhere between 40 to 45% of those that become affected by this virus die. Because fulminant hepatitis destroys liver cells. Now, once your liver's done, your body's unable to detoxify, so you'll die within no time. So more times than not, once you've contracted this disease, you're going to need a liver transplant. Now, another is MRSA. And this you'll find in hospitals a lot. This is like, you speak to a nurse, doctor, respiratory therapist, even administrative staff within a hospital. They'll tell you MRSA is dangerous, and antibiotics can't even treat this form of bacteria. And all you have to do is just come into direct contact with someone carrying this bacteria, and you have it. And symptoms will present as like these red bumps. They'll be swollen, and they'll be full of pus, and they'll feel warm to the touch, and it's very painful. And if you want to get rid of this infection, you have to drain the pus from these bumps. But this bacteria has a tendency to spread to the lungs, to spread to your urinary tract. And you'll present with, let's say, fever and chills, muscle pain, confusion. Anywhere between 5 and 35% of individuals who contract MRSA usually die from it shortly after symptoms first appear. Now, another disease is enterovirus D68. Now, this type of virus affects the respiratory tract. And it can be transmitted via a person's saliva, just simply from coughing. And the individuals most at risk are individuals who have asthma, infants, children. And its symptoms are similar to the flu. You know, there'll be runny nose, fever, sneezing, coughing, muscle aches. And if you do not seek emergency care right away, this virus can lead to death in no time. Now, I've recently done a podcast on symptoms and signs that your pancreas is functioning poorly. And I spoke briefly about acute pancreatitis. But guess what? Acute pancreatitis can be deadly, which basically is inflammation of the pancreas. Now, it can become deadly if this inflammation evolves into necrosis. Now, your initial symptoms of this disorder are going to present with severe abdominal pain, as I've said in the previous podcast, along with digestive problems. But you'll feel this pain, it'll radiate all the way to your back. And the symptoms usually appear like after you've eaten a meal, and you may, suffer from vomiting, nausea, fever, difficulty breathing, sweating. This disorder, acute pancreatitis, has a fatality rate between 2% to 35%. That is serious. That is very, very, very serious. Very serious. Okay, keep that in mind. It's all about your health. Health is wealth. I say this over and over again. The wealth isn't in the bank. It's not in the safe. It's not your pocket. It's not your purse. It's not under your mattress. It's not the shoebox in the closet. It's not under the doghouse in the backyard. It's in you. Now, another deadly disease is Chagas disease, which is caused by a parasite. You can get bit by a certain bug. It transmits to humans via bugs. But most cases are usually in South America. I'm not familiar with this type of bug, but I've spoken to an acupuncture colleague of mine in Colombia, South America, and he spoke to me about this. He let me know that this disease presents in 2 phases. Now, the first phase can last anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks, and you won't notice anything. Then eventually the parasite will make its way into a person's bloodstream, and it will spread to their digestive muscles, their heart, and the individual will suffer from digestive problems, cardiac problems, such as arrhythmias, and even heart failure. This is the second phase of this disease. And if it's not treated right away, a person can experience sudden death. Although less than 5% of individuals who contract this disease die from it. I mean, you just really have to neglect it. Just leave it untreated. And after saying all of this, imagine, let's go back to me constantly saying, to see your primary care physician once a year sometimes, in some cases twice, and regular visits with an acupuncturist. I never speak in absolute terms. Nothing's absolute. It's not to say that, oh my God, you can never contract any of these disorders. But think about it. Think about strengthening your immune system, and it doesn't totally protect you from these disorders. But let's just look at acute pancreatitis. These things you'll pick up right away as a result of regular visits to your acupuncturist and seeing your physician once or twice a year. You'll be surprised what a strong immune system can do, what it can save you from, how much it can protect you. Albeit nothing is absolute. That's why I'm constantly telling you health is wealth. So do me a favor and make acupuncture a part of your life. Because acupuncture is my life. What's yours?